I have 3 kids back home. I have a daughter who is 22 and in her last year at Minnesota State University. I have a son who is 21 and taking a little break from technical college, and we're pushing him to go back eventually. That's how boys are sometimes. And my youngest son is 13 and in the 8th grade, so that is the family back home. I travel all over the world, speak to about 500,000 students every year live around the world. In the last few years, I've been in Uganda, Kenya, Cairo, London, Dublin, Switzerland, Mexico, Australia. Ended my school year last year in Botswana, South Africa, and then back in York and Leeds, England. And then I had the privilege this summer of going with Susie Schellenberger and Brio magazine with a lot of girls and about 400 girls and about 100 boys who are smart enough, if they're going to go on a missions trip, to go on the Brio missions trip. Because the ratio there was about 4 to 1. That's good odds for the boys from Breakaway. And we went to Peru, to Lima, Peru. It was a fabulous, fabulous few weeks with them and those students. So I've had opportunity to hear from students, not only all over the United States, but around the world. And I've learned a tremendous amount from students in the last 15 years I've been traveling. I hope that tonight you'll learn something from me. More importantly, I would like to hear from you. And because of the sheer numbers of students we have here, and because of the folks in central Wisconsin who are watching on satellite tonight and certainly cannot come and ask me a question. Obviously, I do not have time tonight to talk one-on-one and answer all of your questions personally. Now, there are folks all over the church tonight who have a little name tag that says, "Ask me anything." Is that what it says? Something like that. Or "I'm askable." So if you have a question and you need someone to talk to, please feel free to find them and talk to them. All right, that you're going to wait forever to talk to me. And typically, actually, when I get done speaking, no one wants to be seen talking to the sex speaker, besides a few of the adults. So if there was something that you wanted to ask me and you did not get a chance to do that privately tonight, the way to reach me is to go to the World Wide Web. You go to www.pamstenzel.com. And on my table in the back, there are brochures you're free to take. My name is on there and spelled correctly. At pamstenzel.com, students, there's a place you can email me. I answer my own email. Because that's true, it can take me about 10 to 14 days. So please be patient with me, but I will get back to you. I don't want anyone to leave with questions that you really wish you could have asked and you did not know who to ask. All right, so that's how you would get a hold of me. But before I started traveling and speaking full time, I spent 9 years counseling in crisis pregnancy centers in Chicago and then in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And for 9 years, I would have girls in my office every day saying, "Pam, I didn't know." If someone would have told me that this is what was going to happen to me, I would have made a different choice. No one told me. I began to ask these girls in my office, what could we have said? What could someone have said to you before you made this choice that might have helped you to have made a better choice? And after 9 years, I realized that there were a lot of students out there making decisions about sex, having absolutely no idea, none, what the consequence of that choice will be. It's going to talk about tonight. Students, I want you to understand that I did not come to Green Bay today to decide for you what you're going to do about sex. Not why I'm here. I can't make this choice for you, don't intend to. Can't go on your dates with you, I don't have time. Your parents can't choose for you. Although I know there are a bunch of them who showed up tonight who wish they could. I've been telling my kids since they were 4 that when they turn 13, I'm putting them in a box, locking it and feeding them through a window till they're 19. Then my older 2 turned 21 and 22, and I have now upped that to 24. I would love to protect my college students from the pain I have to look at every day. I cannot. All I can do is love them, tell them the truth, and hope they make good choices. My goal tonight is not to decide for anybody what you're going to do, because quite frankly, you can do whatever you want. My goal tonight is that no one would be able to leave this room and ever again have to say to a physician, to a counselor, to your future husband or wife, "Well, nobody told me. I didn't know." Tonight you're going to be told. What you choose to do when you walk out of here is completely up to you. Parents, can I say something to you tonight? And this is probably the last time I'll address you directly, but since we've got you here tonight, and I'm so glad you're here, and there's nothing more important to me than to have the parents and students together, so thank you for coming. But I'm going to be a little tough on you for a minute, and then we're going to leave you alone. Is that okay, kids, if I'm tough on your parents for a second? I need to do that. I don't know what happened to my generation of parents because we weren't parented the way we're parenting. And you know who you are, 40-somethings? I do not remember one moment in my teenage life where my mother worried for half of a second whether or not I liked her. Ever. Not once. I don't remember her losing sleep or caring. Didn't even matter how rude and obnoxious I was, and I was rude and obnoxious, especially in the 9th grade, which is brain damage year for girls, and we lose our minds. I have rules in my house. My husband and I made the rules. It is not a democracy. When you're 43, you can terrorize your own children. That will be your privilege. In my house, 2 rules in my house were this. First rule was no dating at all, period, none until you're 16. Ever. There is no student in this room who is not 16 who should be dating ever. You're brain damaged. This too will pass. And you're, oh no, 9th grade girls will date anything that walks. Is he walking and breathing? That's my criteria. That's all I need to know. It's good enough. Unbelievable. No dating till you're 16, and we can argue about this all day long. I have been doing this for 15 years. I've been counseling teenage girls for 15 years. I have yet to see a young girl, and boys, whatever, they're like, want to go out? I got a skateboard, pick you up later. You have a job. Because who are these young girls dating if they're dating? They're dating older boys every single time, and I don't care if he is the pastor's son. No, none of that. No dating till you're 16. Second rule in my house was no single dating at all until graduation from high school. You will date in groups, 4 or more. 16 is my preference. All of you. That was the rule for my crazy, horrible, conservative Baptist parents. And I am a semi-well-adjusted adult. I survived. And I actually thought group dating was fun when I was a teenager. I got to date more than one guy at one time. And I didn't lose my friends when I was in high school. When I was in high school, we actually had lives. We had sports. We had theater. We had music. We had lives. Dating today looks like pseudo-marriages. Kids walking down the hall. I love you. They break up. She's in the bathroom bawling. It's over. He dumped me. I have no boyfriend. What will I do now? I love you. And they just marry whoever they're surgically attached to when they have the money to do it. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go directly to divorce. That's where you're headed. Group dating was better. We got to stay with our friends. We didn't lose our friends. We got to hang out. We got to get to know the person in a group setting without this, we call it in Minnesota, 2 ticks and no dog. 2 empty insects trying to suck the living life out of each other. It's not very healthy. Some of the parents sitting here tonight are going, oh, those rules, I don't know, those rules. And I could give you a bunch more. Just ask my children. They will tell you. Well, those rules are so strict, Pam. Your kids are going to rebel. So, what'd y'all do? Have a little powwow with your teenager and have some rules they were planning to obey? So you could have that rule? Here, you tell me what you're going to obey. I'll have that rule so I can feel like a good parent. Is that how you did that? Unbelievable. This is my house, my rules. My daughter didn't like me very much in high school. I had news for my teenage daughter. I have friends, and I don't need her. She has friends. She doesn't need me. I wasn't called to be my daughter's buddy. This is not a popularity contest. I was called to be her parent. And my generation of parents, and you know who you are far more concerned about being their kid's buddy than the parent. And let me tell you why. And if your kid has not recently done this, if your teenager has not recently done this, you've told me 1,000,000 times, you are not talking enough. That was my gauge. When my kids did that, I'm like, yes, paycheck, thank you. Do it again. That was my favorite. And you're the only parent. Everybody else's mom. My daughter tried that about a movie one time. My kids went to a small Christian school, got out the Christian school directory right in front of her, started calling parents, the whole thing. Don't call the whole school. I will call the whole school. And don't you dare say everybody else is mom to me. Unbelievable. Here's why I can be tough as a mom, because my husband has mercy gifts. That's why. That's helpful. But one of the reasons why I believe in being tough is this. And I'll tell you what, high school was rough. But I can stand before you today and say that I have a 22-year-old amazing young woman who I can now say is my friend at 22. And I can promise you that if I had been her friend at 15, she would not be my friend at 22. I was willing to go through the pain. And at the end of the day, parents, can I say this to you? I will never stand before God and answer for what my children choose to do. I will stand before God and answer for what I did. For how I taught, for the rules in my home, I will answer for me. I will not answer for her. So it's time, parents, that we took our eyes off of needing to be our kid's friend and put our eyes where they need to be and decide to be the parent. Much more important. I get to start tonight, and I'm going to start this way to remind all of you. And by the way, students, as we get into this, well, I'm glad your parents are here, because sometimes we think this sexuality discussion is for teens. And I think that some of the parents here are going to realize it doesn't matter how old you are. This is true for all of us. If you have sex outside of marriage, if you have sex outside of one permanent, monogamous, and monogamy does not mean one at a time. That means one partner who has only been with you. If you have sex outside of that context, you will pay. There is a cost. I don't care how old you are. And so the question we have to ask tonight is, what is that cost, and is it worth paying? We're going to talk about the physical and emotional cost tonight. Physical cost, help me out. What do you think most teenagers who are having sex are afraid of? What's their biggest fear? Pregnancy is the biggest fear of teens having sex today. Doesn't make a bit of sense to me. Got a news flash for you tonight, Wisconsin. Pregnancy is not a disease. It's actually survivable. You can live through it. I've lived through it 3 times now. A few extra pounds here and there. It hasn't killed me yet. I'd have girls in my office for pregnancy tests scared out of their minds, waiting for the results of that test. I walk in, look at this girl, and say, your test is negative, sweetheart, you're not pregnant. She gets this look of relief over her face, like, I'm off the hook, not pregnant, thank you very much. Let me out of your office. Wait a minute. Have you been tested for syphilis, gonorrhea, herpes, chlamydia, trichomonas, vulvodynia, arthritis, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, HPV, HIV? Have you been tested for that? Me? I live in Green Bay. Pam, I don't live in Menominee. You mean I would need to be tested for that? This girl is in my office thinking she could possibly be pregnant, and she does not think she could have a disease. Astounding. Students, you have a 4 times greater risk of contracting a disease today than you ever have of being pregnant. Pregnant teenage girls in Wisconsin, pregnant teen girls in your state today are carrying, on average, 2.3 sexually transmitted diseases. Not 1, not 2, most of them 3 or more. But they were not worried about getting a disease, were they? Oh no, they didn't want to get pregnant. Every high school I'm in, anywhere in this nation, it does not matter, every single high school I'm in, I will have a girl write me, email me, or come right up to me and say this: well, my mom found out I was having sex, and so she put me on the pill. Or Depo, the shot, fill in the blank. What's that protecting that girl from? What does birth control protect you from? Pregnancy most of the time. That drug, that hormone, that pill, that shot that this girl is taking has just made her 10 times more likely to contract a disease than if she were not taking that drug. This girl could end up sterile or dead. Thanks, Mom. Glad you cared. Is pregnancy the worst thing that could happen if you had sex today? No way. Far worse things than that. However, over 9 years, I've had to tell a lot of young girls that their test was positive. Immediately, they want an easy, painless way out of this pregnancy they didn't plan. I have to look at this little girl and say, guess what, sweetheart? Your choices at this point are bad, terrible, and even worse. Those are your options. You had a good choice. That was before you had sex. All of the other choices you've got are going to carry a lifelong consequences. There's no easy way out of a pregnancy you didn't plan. Abortion is painful. I've counseled hundreds of women, 5, 10, 15 years after having an abortion, still hurting. I've counseled teenage girls with anorexia, bulimia, depression, attempted suicide, cutting, because of an abortion they couldn't take back. That is not like going to the dentist and getting your tooth pulled. There are consequences lifelong to that choice. Parenting is not an easy choice. I was in a middle school in Ohio last spring, met a 7th grade girl, 12 years old, pregnant with twins, delivered in July. Gonna be a lot of difficult years ahead for this 8th grader. Girls, listen carefully to me tonight. Ladies, 80% of teenage girls who choose to parent children while they're teens will live below the poverty level for at least 10 years. Most of them for the rest of their lives. And that's not just that girl living in poverty, that's her child. And 90% of teen girls who choose to parent children today, 9 out of 10 will never attend or graduate from college. 90%. And 10 out of 10 of them sat in my office and said, well, not me, see, because I'm going to finish high school, work full time, go to college, be a doctor. Yeah, whatever. Life happens. Do you know what the #1 indicator of poverty is in our country? And we have poverty in the United States. When I was in Africa, the students in East Africa were like, what? Poverty in the United States of America? It's the wealthiest nation in the world. You have poverty? Sure we do. And the #1 indicator of poverty in my country has nothing to do with race or where you live. The #1 indicator of poverty in the United States today is single-parent households in the age of that young girl when she began parenting alone. Teen moms. That is currently the #1 indicator of poverty in this country. Serious responsibility, girls. This is not a game. This is not a new puppy. This isn't someone to love you. Boys, in case you've all fallen asleep now, because we're talking about pregnancy and this clearly does not involve you. Young men, you get a girl pregnant in the lovely state of Wisconsin or Minnesota, Michigan, pick a state, it doesn't matter. You get a girl pregnant in this country, boys, whom you are not legally married to. Not who you like a whole lot, that does not count. Okay, boys, you get a girl pregnant you're not married to. And you need to understand, young men, that you have absolutely no legal right to the choice she makes. This girl can do whatever she wants. You have no say. And suing her for stealing your sperm might prove to be a bit difficult. You could try. If, however, boys, if this girl decides to parent your child, if that's the decision she makes about her pregnancy, she's going to keep the baby, boys. You now have legal responsibility. It's costing us over $30 billion a year to support teenage girls parenting their children. We can't pay this bill. Over the last 12 years, we've undergone welfare reform, began in the Clinton administrations, continued in the current. I was fortunate in 2002 to be invited to the White House. That day I met both with President Bush as well as the former head of HHS and your former governor, Tommy Thompson, who has actually spearheaded this welfare reform, not only in Wisconsin, but in the nation. Boys, the laws have all changed, especially in Wisconsin. I do not care what happened to your uncle, your cousin, or some older brother. It is not happening for you. We are now requiring in all 50 states the social security numbers of both parents on every birth certificate of every child born in this nation. Girls will no longer be allowed to say, I don't know who the dad is. Don't feel like naming him. We will have your social security number on the paperwork. Boys, if you are named as the father of a child, you will be notified by the county. The county health department is going to send you a note saying you've been named as the father of this child born to this girl on this day. You will have between 60 and 120 days to show up at the county and say it's not me. She pulled my name out of a hat. That girl's lying. She's been everywhere. It's not my kid. They'll do a DNA test. If that test in fact proves that you are not the biological father, they're going back to mom and saying, sorry, try again. Till we have somebody's social security number on the paperwork. Why we change the law, boys? Why do we want that number? So we can let you know when your kid starts kindergarten? Send you a nice note? Had an 8th grade boy in Louisiana. I love junior hires. He raises his hand. He goes, so that the child will know who his dad is? No. Money's what we're after, boys. It's going to cost you over the next 18 years between $60,000 and $80,000, and your pay will be garnished. If you are not working, you will incur debt. And when and if you ever do get a job, it's coming out of your paycheck. And an interesting fact for those of you in Wisconsin is that in the state of Wisconsin, if the boy is under the age of 18 and he is the father of a child and he is not employed, the state has the right to go after his parents and garnish their wages until that son is in fact over 18 and employed. In this state, the parents of the young men will pay. Someone on that side of the family will pay. My daughter, who's at university, likes to make sure that I am well aware of the popular culture. She sent me the song. She goes, Mom, you got to listen to the song. I think they're finally getting it, that boys are going to have to pay for the children they father. It was a song by a rapper, so I had to listen to it about 5 times before I could get all the words. The guy's name was Kanye West. The song was called Gold Digger. And an entire verse of this song, this Super Bowl player's whining because he has to leave the Super Bowl in a Hyundai because his baby mama buying bling with this money, getting lipo with this money. Well, maybe that Super Bowl player should have thought about that before he had sex. Maybe that's when he should have thought about that. I was in my home state of Minnesota speaking in a high school way up north. Tiny high school way up north in Minnesota, a place where people go to hang out at their cabins and fish during the summer. I got done speaking at this high school, and a senior boy got up in front of his entire school, told them all for the first time that he was a father. It was a girl vacationing in their town the summer before. He had no intentions of marrying this girl. He wasn't going to marry her. And 9 months later, he's a dad. He's allowed to see his daughter one weekend every 3 months. That's when they can arrange transportation from Minneapolis. But he's being required by the state of Minnesota to pay $350 a month to support his infant daughter based on his current income. This kid's not a pro football player. He's working at Burger King. I looked at Sean in front of his whole school. I said, Sean, if you had anything at all to say to the boys sitting here tonight, what would you say? Anything at all? Sean said 2 words. Don't drink. He said, I made a decision drinking one night I wouldn't have made sober. And I'm going to pay for that for the rest of my life. Not only will Sean pay, so will a little girl from Minneapolis, so will their daughter. And so will every other relationship either of them have for the rest of their lives. Permanent consequence for everyone. What, because he was drunk? Student, you can have all the right answers. I hear it all the time. Pam, I'm going to wait. I know sex is for marriage. I have a purity ring. I made a decision. And then one night you get drunk and have no concept what you're doing. And you end up in my clinic going, oh, I didn't mean to. I was drunk. I had college girls in my clinic after the pregnancy test was done. And I said, you need to see a physician. This is going to require a pap test and some blood work and some other STD testing. I had these girls look directly at me and say this, well, I don't need all those tests because I was drunk. So herpes is asking now? Is that how that works? Because I didn't get that. Excuse me, are you sober or drunk? Because we don't infect sober people. Or drunk people, only sober people. You're not going to be able to say, oops, I didn't mean to. I went to a party and I was drunk. And now you have herpes for your life. Because you were drunk? Don't drink. Don't ever use any kind of drug that would alter your ability to choose, because you do not get to say, oops, and it wasn't my fault. The disease or the pregnancy doesn't care. Doesn't care. Serious responsibility, boys. And my suggestion to you, as I have already looked in the face of my 8th grade son and said it to him, you would better think about that before you have sex. After, if you're not married, is too late. The choice is not yours. Third option a young girl has if she finds herself pregnant, didn't intend to be, which I happen to think is the best option available to teen girls today, but it's not without pain. It will carry consequences. It's adoption. It's the ability of a young girl to take the child she's carried with her for 9 months and loves with everything she is, to say, I want what's best for my child, and I'm not it. And I am willing to go through this pain in order to give my child a family. It takes a lot of courage, a lot of maturity, and a lot of love. It's not easy. 2 million requests for adoption will go unanswered this year in the United States and Canada. 2 million couples who would love to be parents in 2008 who will not be. Girls, I need you to hear this tonight. This is primarily going to affect the girls sitting in this room. Ladies, infertility, the inability to have children of your own biologically, has risen over 500% 100% among women in one decade. Girls who graduated from your high school in 1999, many of them are just now finding out they will never have children because of choices they made sitting where you're sitting. Girls, you find out 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that you can't have children for whatever reason. And all the money you and your husband have spent trying to get pregnant ladies doesn't work. The chances you'll be able to adopt an infant in this country aren't good. Average adoption of infants in the U.S. now takes between 8 and 10 years and costs between $10,000 and $20,000. There are no infants available here today. It's one of the reasons I've been in Africa for the last 5 years. We've got 1.4 million orphans to both their parents dead from AIDS, and yet millions of couples here who will never have children. Problem is, no matter what Angelina Jolie and Madonna might make it look like, it is not that easy to run over to Africa or China or Russia and pick up a child. The average international adoption now runs about $50,000 and whatever you have to bribe the country to get the baby out. It takes a lot of love for a girl to give her child a family and to give that couple the privilege of being parents. 44 years ago in Michigan, a young 15-year-old became pregnant. She had a lot of difficult choices to make. Maybe more so than some 15-year-old girls, she was raped. Abortion was legal in the 60s for rape in the state of Michigan. But this 15-year-old girl chose to give her child life and then to place that child with an adoptive family. And that child was me. My biological father is a rapist. I don't even know my ethnicity. But my life is not worth any less than any of yours just because of the way I was conceived. And I do not believe that I deserve the death sentence because of the crime of my father. And I've listened to the rhetoric for a long time. I've listened to people say that every child should be wanted and planned. I've listened to people say, well, I wouldn't have an abortion, I wouldn't kill my child, but if it were rape, you're a mistake, Pam. I don't believe that. I believe that every child is wanted by someone. And I recently heard someone who thinks they would like to have power say that he wouldn't want his daughters punished with a child. So now I'm a punishment. I'm a mistake because I wasn't planned, because I wasn't wanted. Unbelievable. I've not met my birth mom. Someday I hope to. If I don't meet her here on earth, I'm going to meet her in heaven. I've been praying for her since I was 4. And someday when I meet her, I'm going to wrap my arms around her and I'm going to tell her I love her because she loved me. She loved me enough to give me my life. And then she loved me enough to give me the next most special gift I was ever given, and that's my family. I'm the oldest of 8 children, 7 of us adopted, every color of the rainbow in my family. We are the United Nations. Right? My mom's one of 12 children, 9 girls, 3 boys. 6 of those girls could not conceive, and out of the 87 grandchildren, 38 of us are adopted. And you should see our family reunion. It is the United Nations. It's awesome. You know what? I know that the gift of the amazing family that I was given was a gift from a very scared 15-year-old girl who most people would have said could have made a different choice and my life didn't matter. And she made a different choice. And I will forever be grateful to her for that. Students, I came to Wisconsin today and I spend 15 days a month away from the 13-year-old I love the most. He's mine. Because I wouldn't want anyone sitting in here listening on satellite to ever have to make a choice like this. I've spent 9 years of my life walking girls through this. There is no easy way out. The best choice is before you have sex. That's when you have a good choice to make. After that, it is going to get really tough. But please hear me tonight. If you, someone you care about, someone you go to school with, were to find yourselves pregnant you didn't intend to be, please get some help, please. Do not walk through this alone. You are going to have to live with whatever you choose to do for the rest of your life. Here tonight is the Bay Area Pregnancy Care Center. Everything they do there is absolutely free and completely confidential. I know there's a crisis pregnancy center or 2 in Stevens Point. Make sure you get help. Get help. Pregnancy survival, though, we can live through that. Sweetheart, we could walk you through that. That is not the worst thing that could happen if you decide to have sex today. Far worse things than that. Today, October the 6th, today, in the next 24 hours, 14,000 teenagers will contract a sexually transmitted disease. Today. 14,000 more tomorrow, and those are the ones we're testing. It's nowhere near the teens infected. College students, in case you're here tonight, I noticed we passed a campus on the way here to the church. I have college students, so now this matters to me, and sometimes as speakers, that's the way we do it. We care about it when it matters to us. So I did the stats. When we include the college population, we have 38,000 newly infected students a day. Our university campuses are one big giant disease, which I have reminded my children of on a regular basis. 14,000 of them teenagers who got up this morning, and I know, said like somebody's sitting right in this room. What's not going to happen to me? Pam, that happens in Minnesota. Michigan, Illinois, scary places like Milwaukee. But we're okay here. We have a lake, trees. Doesn't happen in Green Bay. Wrong. In the 1950s, students, we had 5 sexually transmitted diseases we knew about and were treating. 5. You could count them on one hand. Go find a grandparent. Go find somebody who grew up in the 40s or 50s. Ask them. This will be a great dinner table conversation next time you're at Grandma's. Y'all try this. Why don't you try this? Thanksgiving, make sure all the relatives are there. This will be fun. Grandma, were there STDs when you were a kid? Did people have them? Talk about it at school, at church? Did you have crazy speakers come to a church in your town and yell about syphilis for an hour in 1952? No. I mean, maybe a few people back then had an STD. They got a shot of penicillin, moved on. Welcome to 2008, students. Don't ever let your parents say, well, when I was young. Because you know what, parents? We weren't dealing with this. It is not to say, there's not enough money in the world to pay me to sit where my 8th graders sit, and I wouldn't trade places with them for all the cash in the world. I wasn't dealing with what he's dealing with. It's a whole new world. Welcome to 2008. We now have over 30 sexually transmitted diseases, 30% of them absolutely incurable. That means you get one of these diseases, and you've got it for life. Which is a lovely thing, boys, when you're getting ready to get married. Found this girl you love. I mean, this is it. She's the one you want to marry. All those other girls, that was just messing around. This is the real thing. Pull out that diamond, look her in the eyes. If you're really cool, boys, you get on your knees. You say, marry me. By the way, I've got genital warts. You'll get it too, and we'll both be treated for the rest of our lives. In fact, you'll probably end up with a radical hysterectomy, cervical cancer, and possibly death. But marry me. Well, I'm excited now. Thanks for sharing. Isn't that what you want to hear from your future husband, girls? Lovely. HPV, genital warts, syphilis, gonorrhea, herpes, chlamydia, trichomonas, vulvodynia, arthritis, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, HIV, list goes on and on and on. Serious diseases with serious consequences. Students, AIDS is not the only disease out there, and it's certainly not the only disease that's killing people, and yet we have teenagers in Wisconsin who actually think, well, if I don't get pregnant, or I don't get AIDS, well, then I don't have anything to worry about. I'm fine then. No way. No way. Chlamydia, one of the most common diseases among the teenagers sitting here tonight, and yes, I said that and meant it. One of the most common diseases among the students sitting here tonight is chlamydia. This is a bacteria, not a virus. Easily treated and easily cured. If we knew you had it, we could help you. 7 days worth of antibiotics now given in 2 doses, and we can wipe this out. 2 types of STDs, students. If you have not yet had biology, or if you flunked, pay attention. You'll get a better grade on your SATs, okay? 2 types of STDs. This is not hard. Bacterial and viral. A bacteria is curable. There is medication we can give you. We can take care of that. A virus is not. You get a virus, you've got it for life. There is no cure. We have never in the history of the world cured a virus. Chlamydia is not a virus, it's a bacteria, it's curable, so what's the big deal? I'll tell you what the big deal is. And 90% of the teenagers sitting here tonight who have chlamydia, there are no symptoms. You can't treat a disease you don't know you have. We got thousands of teenagers out here having sex going, well, it's not bothering me, because, I've had sex, but I don't have a disease. Never been tested, certainly not in the last 3 weeks, but I know I don't have anything. How in the world would you know that? Let me tell you something pretty safe to say I know about you. If there's a teenager sitting here tonight who's had sex, let me tell you something I know about you. It's true of students all over the world. It's not different here. You actually believe that if you get up the next morning and herpes isn't tattooed to your forehead, you don't have a disease. I mean, if I can't see it, feel it, or touch it, I don't have it. Pam, if I had a disease, I would know. My nose would turn purple, my ears would be red, something would burn. I would know. No, you would not. The only way you'd know is if you got tested. Teenagers don't get tested because you don't think it's going to happen to you. And you actually think if you don't feel sick, you're not sick. I was in the RCA Dome where the Colts used to play football. We had about 40,000 students that Saturday morning. And anytime I speak in stadiums like that, I'll have about 1,000 kids rush the stage afterwards going, Pam, you need to come to my school. When can you come to my high school? We had 8 girls pregnant. We have the highest pregnancy rate in the county. But I don't know anyone at my high school who's got a disease. Really? First of all, your friends aren't getting tested. And even if they were, do you think they'd tell you? Do you? Hey, girls, went to the doctor yesterday, found out I had herpes. Tell everybody by lunch. I would like the whole school to know, but maybe we could put it on the announcements. I'm working on this. Every high school I'm speaking in, I beg their principal, from now on at your high school, every Monday morning on the Monday announcements, the following students contracted an STD over the weekend. They are. People, that would be helpful. Then we would know. What did you think? Did you think you were going to show up the Monday after homecoming, walk the hallways of the school and go, purple nose? Did you see his nose, girls? He did not have that last Friday. Don't touch him. Herpes. I saw his nose. Do you think you would know what students in here are carrying an STD tonight? Because 1 out of 4 of you are. Think you'd know? Students, when you go to school tomorrow and you walk the halls, I want you to count. 1 out of 4 of the students you're going to pass is infected with an STD tomorrow. Know who they are? There's no way you'd know. American Medical Association released a bulletin last year. They said this: every teenage girl who has had sex must be tested for chlamydia every 6 months. Every teenage girl who has had sex must be screened for chlamydia every 6 months. Why did the doctors say girls? Why not everyone? Don't boys get this? Sure you do. Who in the world do you think you're getting it from, girls? Boys and girls both get this, infected, give it to each other. So why are the doctors only concerned that we're screening girls? I'll tell you. Ladies, listen up. Girls, you contract chlamydia 1 time in your lifetime, cured or not, and there is a 25% chance you will be sterile for the rest of your life. Girls, you get this disease twice, it jumps to 50%. Get it 3 times, sweetheart, and there is a very good chance you will never have children. We literally have hundreds of thousands of women entering their mid-20s going, I'd like to start my family now. I'm married, have a college education, finally found a good guy, done with all the messing around I did in high school and college. Now I want to be a mom. They try. They can't get pregnant. They go running to a doctor, he checks and says, my goodness, sweetheart, you've got all this scar tissue in your fallopian tubes, your ovaries, your uterus. You have pelvic inflammatory disease, PID. You had chlamydia or gonorrhea when you were a teenager. What? I had what? I had a sexually transmitted, how could I have had that? I didn't even know. Too late, girls. Sorry. It's too late. Girls, can I love you tonight? I need the girls in this room to hear me. Girls, that boy can dump you, break up with you, leave high school, go to University of Wisconsin, meet another girl, marry her, and have a family. This is absolutely not going to hurt him. Ladies, you're scarred for life. You have more to lose, girls. Please don't miss this. I am really sorry. Life is not fair. Parents, your teenagers still think life needs to be fair? Well, that's not fair. If the boys get to the girl, life is not fair. Ladies, we will pay a higher price physically every single time. Of the 30 sexually transmitted diseases, 26 of them primarily damage women. The other 4 damage both. Fair? Girls, I wish I could make stuff up for boys. You know, things that turn green, fall off. And if I could make it up, I would. That would be lying and untruthful. I have to be honest, ladies, we will always pay a higher price. And I know you think it's not fair, but in case you missed this in 6th grade human reproduction and anatomy, different. Boys and girls' bodies are not the same. Some of you are looking confused. You're scaring me. Were you all well aware of that? Didn't think I needed the PowerPoint tonight. Very good. Girls, we all have an open sexual system. The boys, the men in here all have closed sexual systems. Girls, we are easier to infect and easier to damage. It's the way we're made. Girls, we have to release an egg from an ovary that makes its way through a fallopian tube that cannot be scarred in any way. If that takes place, conception takes place. Conceived egg now is to attach itself to your uterine wall. There can be no infection or scarring of uterus. Saves you the nutrients it needs. Baby girls, for 9 months you deliver. It's funner in Spanish. He produces sperm. Big deal. It's not that hard. Okay, girls, your system is just a little more complicated. Now, I love doing this in a mixed group because my junior high boys, they're always looking at me like, will there be a test? Because she said that too fast. And my upperclassmen, usually when I do high schools, the senior boys have, for whatever reason, I think they heard it was a talk about sex, they're always sitting right in the front. And here's what all the upperclassmen, the older boys are all like, well, that's tough. You think that sperm thing's so easy? You just try that then. See, they let a woman speaker get up and talk about sex and she's just dissing men. What's wrong with you? Some kind of feminazi or something? Don't you like men? I like men. I married one. I have 2 boys. My oldest son is 21. He's a good kid. Yes, he plays Halo too much. He's a good kid. And I know you think I'm biased because he's my son. He's a good kid. And I get so ticked off when I travel this country and I listen to teachers and principals and coaches say stuff like this. Well, boys will be boys. They're all disrespectful. They just pressure girls for sex. And then I get worse ticked off if I hear a teenage girl say it. All boys want sex. They just pressure you and dump you. If you won't put out, you'll be dateless. And no one will ask you to homecoming. And you won't be popular. I have taught my son to respect women. If he does not, I will kill him. Those are his options. And I know that I am not the only mother in the entire nation who has taught their son what it means to respect women. So I'm about to say something really nice about a lot of the boys sitting in this room. So I don't want any boys with selective hearing. They'll be the ones going back home tonight, going on the youth group bus, going, that Pam Stenzel hates men. Did you hear the sex lady? She's a man hater. Pay attention. Girls, I have had the privilege of traveling this country. I have been in towns, cities, high schools, youth conferences, universities, all over this nation. And in every school I've been in, every state, every city. And girls, I believe that tonight is as true as every other night I've stood before an audience. I have met amazing young men. I know that sitting in this room tonight are young men with integrity, boys with character, girls, boys who do care about you. The kind of boy, if you were to date him, would look at you and say, I do love you, and you matter. And you know what? I might be able to walk away from sex with you without permanent damage, but you might not. And because I love you so much, because you matter so much, I would never ask you to put your life on the line, your ability to have children, your future, your self-respect on the line to meet my momentary need. I would never pressure, demand, hurt, take, and walk. I care way too much about you for that. There are boys with that kind of integrity. Ladies, I married one. Unfortunately, as just a small word of warning, especially for our freshman girls who will date anything that walks. And you know who you are. And we know who you are because you're dating senior boys who can't get a girl their own age to touch them with a 10-foot pole. No one will date him. Then we'll have some stupid freshman girl's mother going, oh, my daughter must be popular because the seniors like her. Duh. As a small word of warning, girls, there have always been and there always will be boys who don't care. And as long as they don't get hurt in the long run, sweetheart, they're going to say all the words. And I have heard that in Wisconsin, they're good at it. I love you. Well, everybody else is doing it. If you want some freshman, I'll die. He's not going to die. and nothing will fall off. He will actually live. And real love respects. Love does not pressure, damage, hurt, take, and walk. Girls, love would never ask you to do something that could damage you for the rest of your life. That's not love. Girls ask me this every day. Boys never ask this. Girls ask me this daily. Well, how would I know if it's love? How would I know if he loved me? He said it. My heart's pounding. He's cute. Girls, there's only one way you will ever know if that boy loves you. One way. Put a boundary down. Say this far and no further, and watch for respect. You don't have love without respect. It's not possible. I get hundreds of emails from the boys, because boys are all writing me all the time, these high school boys. Well, you're up there making it sound like all the boys are trying to get girls to have sex with them, and all the girls are just sweet and innocent. No, please don't. Stop. Have you even been on a high school campus ever? Yes, I have. Pam, have you seen girls today? They're so aggressive. Have you seen the way the girls in Wisconsin dress now? Just take me now. What was I supposed to do? She started it. She seduced me, Pam. I was being a man of integrity. I said no. It was her. Boys, can I say something to you? And I've said this to my kids so much. My older kids, they used to, when we talk about this, do this. They're starting to get it in college. And in fact, when I started putting this into my talk to high school students, my college kids said that you were too young, that you wouldn't get this. But I already sat down with my 8th grader and started this conversation right here. And one of the reasons I spent a lot of time with it with my other 2 is because I don't read boys well. Teenage boys can fool me. Which is why when my daughter was in high school, she was not allowed to date any boy her brother did not approve of. Her brother was in that school, he was in the locker room. I wanted to know what he had to say about that boy's character. I did not need my daughter's help with the girls. I can walk onto any high school campus in this nation, give me 20 minutes and a mic, and I will show you the girls who are going to struggle for the rest of their lives. I can point them out, which is why my son didn't date much in high school. No. There will be no way. Boys, it's all cute fun to talk about what girl you're going to take to homecoming. Isn't that a whole lot of cute high school fun? It takes a tremendous amount of maturity for a young man to grow up enough to ask himself a tougher question. Who do I want to be the mother of my children? Different question. High school boys, college kids say to me all the time, well, I'm going to sleep around now and have sex with whatever girl's stupid enough to have sex with me when we're teenagers. But when I get married, I don't want that girl that slept with half the football team. Then I would like a virgin. Why in the world would a virgin ever want you? Why would someone who's respected themselves ever in a million years want you? Students, here's what I'm going to say that's going to go over most of your heads, which is why I'm glad your parents are here. Because your parents are mature enough and have seen this enough to know what I'm talking about. Some of you high school students are mature enough to understand this. If you are not, I hope that an adult will say this to you until you're old enough to get it. This is probably the most important thing I'll say all night, right here. Opposites might attract when it comes to personality. Opposites never attract when it comes to character. You are going to get exactly what you are every time. You're going to get exactly what you think. You can be a player. This is a big game. You can sleep around, have sex with all these people, and someday you're going to put a white dress on or a tux on and put a magic ring on your finger, and now you're going to be able to control what you couldn't control before? What, do you think we have magic discipline fairies at the altar? What is that? Oh, but I have a magic ring. I won't cheat because of this. Please. Past behavior predicts future behavior. You're screwing around now, you're going to do it later. Good morning. And then they think, oh, but he'll be faithful to me because I'm so pretty. Within 3 years, they're cheating on each other, running to the pastor going, I can't believe he cheated. Duh. We're all shocked. They were doing it before they walked the aisle. They're going to do it after. I get so sad when kids come up to me and say, you know what, Pam, I'm not going to wait. Everybody's doing it. I'm not going to wait to have sex until I'm married because I'll never find someone else who waited. I'll never find a spouse who waited. Really? You want to guarantee it? Sleep around. Because you're going to get exactly what you are. Boys, there will always be girls. Someday it will be women. This is not a teenage problem, in case you haven't seen Desperate Housewives recently. There will always be women who will throw themselves at you. Let's go 10 years down the road. You married this awesome, beautiful, lovely girl. You got 2 wonderful children. Your job takes you on the road. I know what that's like. I'm in hotels 14 nights a month. You're tired, exhausted. You've had a long day. You go down to the restaurant bar. You're watching the Vikings beat the Packers. I know, dream world. We're in fantasy land. You're watching the game, minding your own business, and some woman walks up and throws herself at you. Gonna call your wife later and say, sorry, honey, but she started it. She was aggressive. You should have seen how she was dressed. I didn't know they dressed like that at Hooters. I went for the wings. How can I fly in your house, boys? Because I'm flying mine. Boys, can I be mom for just a minute tonight? Young men, please hear me. If there is a girl throwing herself at you, if this girl is pressuring you for sex, if what you're telling me is true, and this is one of those girls who's dressing in that manner that's saying to you and every other boy in the county, take me now. Little word of advice, boys, run from this girl, run away. I did not say walk, I said run from her. Let me tell you about this girl. I know her well. I've had this little girl in my clinic for 15 years. This is a little girl who's bought the lie of a culture that has told her what makes her valuable is her body. So in order to feel good about herself, she needs to turn your head, sweetheart. And when she is done turning yours, she's going to need to turn his, and then 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 his. And this will not end when she's 18, 20, 25, 30, 35, or 40. This is a lifelong problem. Who do you want to be the mother of your children? Young men here tonight, hear me carefully. The respect and integrity you show every girl in your world, in your school, in your church, in your family, the respect, boys, that you show the girls right here, that is the trust you will hand your wife someday. And if you cannot be respectful of women now, what in the world makes you think a wedding ring will fix that? Girls, the respect and integrity you show yourself and every boy in your circle, by the way you dress, by the way you chat, by the way you talk about what you're doing with your friends, that is the trust you will hand your husband someday. Pretty white dresses and flowers do not fix this. All of this behavior will start right here. Then there's herpes. Won't spend time on it. Herpes is a virus. You get it, you got it forever. You're going to give it to your spouse someday, no cure. Herpes isn't going to kill you. However, if you're a female with herpes, ladies, and you want to have a child, you will need a C-section. Girls, you give this virus to your child during vaginal delivery, it will kill your child. Fatal to infants, not you. Herpes is basically just sores and boils on your genital area that reoccur periodically throughout your life. Now, there's medication we can give you for the sores. Won't cure the virus. Once you've got it forever, and you're going to give it to everybody else. But we can give you some medication for the sores. So many people in our country have herpes now. We have so many people infected with this virus that the medication for herpes sores, Valtrax, is big business. We now have to endure commercials. You seen them? I'm watching TV with my boys, minding my own business. This beautiful model jumps off the bike. I have genital herpes. There's medication you can take for those sores on your genital area. It may cause nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting. Birds are singing beautiful music. There's a waterfall. They're riding bikes. I don't know how. And I'm watching this going, she's gorgeous, people. I'm going down to Walgreens later and asking for herpes because she's got it and she's cute. I want my days to be my days. I'd like herpes. Let's all get herpes. It'll be awesome. I was standing waiting for the hotel van to pick me up at the airport today. And this guy starts talking to me and, oh, what do you do for a living? Speaker. Who do you talk to? Teenagers. What about? Sex. I made some comment. He blatantly, sitting outside the Green Bay airport, tells me that his friend just found out he had herpes. Everybody's got herpes. I'm well aware. Stay over there. I know. You want to know how many people have herpes, students? Parents? Want to know? If you are 12 or older, and that should be most of us here tonight, if you are 12 or older, 1 in 5 people in the United States over 12 is now infected with herpes. 1 out of 5. Not the most common virus. Next one is. Number 1 STD in the United States, Wisconsin, right here in this crowd. Number 1 STD among everyone sitting here today is human papilloma virus, HPV. This is also a virus. What does that mean? No cure. You got it forever. You're going to give it to everyone you have sex with after infection. Not only the most common STD, the most contagious sexually transmitted disease we know. Street name for human papillomavirus, or HPV, is genital warts. Basically warts on your genital area that need to be burned off periodically, either through laser surgery or chemicals. Now, we used to think that was the only big deal. Get a few warts, burn them off, not a problem. Until we realized a few things about the virus. Number one is this: you can have it and be giving it to other people without ever having warts. In fact, the most cancerous strains, teenagers, parents hear this, I'm coming back to it. There are over 100 strains of this virus. The most cancerous strains don't produce warts at all. Teenagers are not infecting each other with this because you mean to. You don't mean to. You don't know you have it. Girls, if you do get warts or lesions as a result of being infected with the virus, typically, ladies, they will be on your cervix. When was the last time you saw your cervix? Had an 8th grade boy in Detroit look up at me and go, I don't know. I said, you don't have one, honey, breathe. Junior high boys, the cervix is the opening to the uterus, and you don't have one of those either. And that is not a part of your body you can see. I know when I say genital warts that I got teenagers sitting in here who've had sex who in your mind are doing this. Well, she said that wart thing, and I have never seen a wart down there. I don't have that. My friend, if you've had sex or sexual contact, and I will define that in a minute, and you have not been specifically tested by a doctor for this virus, in males, that's a blood test that costs in excess of $1,000. There is not a free clinic in this nation that will ever test a boy for this virus, and not an insurance company that will pay for it done. We don't test boys for this. It's a horribly expensive blood test that is completely inaccurate. It could take 5 years from the time a boy is infected before he would ever test positive on our test. And yet we have boys saying stuff like this to girls. I don't have anything. I got tested. For what? And how much did it cost you? And I sure hope it's been 5 years since you last had sex. Students, STD testing cannot tell you what you don't have. We can tell no one what they don't have. And yet we have teenagers thinking they could have sex on Friday night, run to a clinic and tell people that they don't have a disease simply because they got tested? Come on. We do test girls for this. It's done in every free clinic. Every doctor's office, most insurance companies cover it completely. We test girls through a thin pap smear, or pap test, which is a scraping of the cervix. Why don't we test boys that way? You don't have one, very good. We're now requiring every woman who's ever had sex to get a pap test yearly. If there is actually a girl sitting in here who is under the age of 22 and you've had sex, sweetheart, you are at absolute highest risk, and you need that yearly pap test. If you were my daughter, it would be every 6 months. Negative pap, ladies, does not mean you don't have the virus. It means you don't yet have cervical cancer. Some of you have heard that there's a vaccine for this virus. 2006, Merck released a vaccine called Gardasil. You may have seen some of the commercials. One less, tell someone. The media made you believe that this was a vaccine for cancer. This is not a vaccine for cancer. This is a vaccine for a sexually transmitted disease. Gardasil is a vaccine for HPV. Here's what you need to know about Gardasil. Gardasil, the vaccine for HPV, is currently only being given to girls. We are not vaccinating any boys at all. We are only vaccinating girls. Gardasil, in order to be somewhat effective, needs to be given to a girl who is in fact a virgin. If you are not a virgin, the vaccine will most likely do no good. Now, they're willing to take your $800 cash. They made $4 billion last year, so they'll probably give it to whoever. But in order for it to be effective, we need you to be a virgin, which is why we were targeting 11 and 12-year-old girls for this vaccine. Ladies, if you are a virgin, or you were a virgin at the time you were vaccinated, Gardasil, given to a virgin girl, is good for 4 out of the 100 strains of this virus. There are 96 strains still there. This in no way guarantees you will not be infected with HPV and does not guarantee you will not get cervical cancer. Ladies, if you were vaccinated as a virgin, once you become sexually active, you will still need regular pap tests. If that did not make sense to you or you didn't get that, please email me. I will send it to you in writing. This is a reducing of the risk of eventual cervical cancer. It is not eliminating it. And my biggest fear, and I'm not going to tell you whether you should get the vaccine or not, that's between you, your parents, your doctor, whatever you decide. What I am telling you is this: it is no guarantee. And even if you become sexually active having been vaccinated, you will still need a pap test. You could still end up with cervical cancer. If that wasn't clear, email me. Boys, HPV is a little annoying. Having warts burned off your genital area is painful, I'm sure, I'm guessing. And I would hate to have to be there, boys, when you had to tell the girl you loved and wanted to marry about every partner you've ever had. I have to know. Hear me carefully. My risk of infection has nothing to do with whether you used a condom or got tested. My risk of infection has everything to do with where you've been. I have to know every single partner you have ever had. It is unconscionable that anyone in this room, and I don't care how old you are or if you're the governor of New York, I don't care. It is unconscionable that anyone in this room would ever have sex with another human being and not honestly tell them everywhere you've been. Every single partner, I have to know. What happens at spring break does not stay at spring break, and adults, what happens in Vegas does not stay in Vegas either. Unbelievable that we think we can lie to our partners about where we've been. Unbelievable. Boys, it's not going to be fun. Maybe you're going to live. Ladies, you had better know where this boy's been, and you better pray to the God above he's not lying, because this is a huge deal for you. HPV is the #1 causal agent of cervical cancer in women. We now have girls as young as 18, 19, and 20 undergoing radical hysterectomies will never have children. In fact, more women died last year in the U.S. from cancer due to this than died of AIDS. I had a young woman my age, very young, come up to me in tears in Missouri a couple weeks ago, who had just undergone a radical hysterectomy, and they are not sure they got all the cancer. She said, "No one said this to us. No one told us. No one ever told me." I had a senior come up to me last year being all tough, came right up to me. She goes, "I got cervical cancer, got it in the 9th grade. This means she got the virus in the 7th or 8th. She goes, "I've had numerous cryosurgeries, freezings of my cervix. The cancer's now spread to my uterus. They're doing a hysterectomy next week." 3 weeks before she graduated from high school. She's being real tough. She said, "Pam, kids are noisy, smelly, cost a lot of money, and I don't want one." And she got a little teary. She said, "I'm just trying to deal with the fact that I'm going to have to tell the man I love and want to marry that if he marries me, neither will he." Is it worth this, girls? Because he said he loved you? Because you needed to be popular? Because everybody else was doing it? It's worth this? Do you realize that we've had more deaths among women because of this, and we're not telling our daughters this? No one's talking about it. I've been talking about this since 1996. Go back and watch my first video. I've been talking about HPV since the beginning. I was the only one. And now some pharmaceutical company is going to make $4 billion, and now we have to listen to one less tell. So where were they when my daughter was in high school? Where were they? Nowhere. Because there wasn't cash involved. Unbelievable. 2 things you need to know about HPV. #1 is this. Students, hear me carefully. They now estimate that 67% of the teenagers who have had sex, that's a specific group, that's not all of you. Many of you in here have never had sex, you're a virgin. You can run out of here in a minute yelling virgin, you're perfectly fine. 67% of the students in here who have had sex are already infected with HPV. That was math. Most of you aren't prepared to do math on a Monday night, so I will make it clear. Parents, you as well. There is no way any person in this room under the age of 22 tonight could have sex with someone who is not in fact a virgin and not get a disease. It is not possible. You will get something, it will most likely be this. Here's why. There is not a condom in the world that will protect you from HPV. I did not say it might slip, break, fall off, or you left it in the glove compartment. That is not what I said. Condoms, used properly, provide no protection at all from HPV. HPV is not transmitted the way HIV is. HIV, the virus that causes AIDS, requires the exchange of body fluid. We need blood, semen, or vaginal fluid exchange. Herpes and HPV are both skin-contracted viruses. All it takes is skin contact anywhere in the genital area and you're infected for life. And will infect everyone you have genital contact with after that. Let me make this clear. It doesn't take what some of you think is sex. You know how many teenagers we've had in our clinics test positive for herpes and HPV who thought they were technically virgins? Thought they could do everything else? See, what was their big fear? What were they worried about? They're worried about getting pregnant. So I can do all this other stuff. It's not sex. It's safe. It doesn't count. I'm still a virgin. I don't have to tell people who I did that with because that's not sex. Students, I am now going to give you the medical definition of sex. It does not help to tell you to not have sex if we have not defined sex. We have to define it. This is the medical definition of sex. This is the medical line over which you can't step. And if you have ever stepped over this line, you've risked disease and you need to get tested, and don't you dare tell anyone you're a virgin. Don't you dare. We have teenagers running around going, I'm a virgin, and they're infecting each other like wildfire. Here is the line over which you can't step. Absolutely no genital contact of any kind. None. Yes, that includes oral sex, which is mouth to genital. Oral sex is sex, hence the name, oral sex. And every single sexually transmitted disease, every one, is transmitted through oral sex. If you have had oral sex, you are not a virgin, and don't you dare tell anyone you are. And every single partner you ever have will have to know every single person you've done that with. Is that clear? Anybody still confused? Y'all know what genital means? Because I get about 100 emails a week from kids. Does that mean shaking hands? We don't usually have genital contact with people we're meeting in the hallway. Hello, nice to meet you. Here's a simple rule. If you will both abide by this rule at all times, you're 100% safe. You can run out of here yelling virgin. Here it is. Ready? Keep your pants on and zipped. Both of you, all the way. That's safe. Any genital contact is not. Was that clear? All right, good. And there's HIV. I'm not going to spend time on it. HIV causes AIDS. It's deadly. You don't want it. Equal opportunity, hurting boys and girls the same. In light of that, what are you being told to do to make sure you don't get this virus that will kill you? If I said safe sex to teenagers in Wisconsin, what would most of them say? What's safe sex? Condoms. Sure, hey, Pam, I can sleep with 18 people. I got a piece of latex. Safe. Students, condoms aren't safe. Never have been, never will be. The only safe sex is a safe partner. Someone who has never had sex, or if they have, hear me carefully. It has been 5 years from the last time they had sex of complete abstinence. Please have them virally blood tested. It's worth whatever it costs. I could have sex 1,000,000 times with my husband who's only been with me, never once use a condom, and I will never get a disease, ever. I could have sex one time tonight with some guy I meet at the hotel later tonight, use a condom, and be infected for the rest of my life. It has nothing to do with latex. It has everything to do with who you're having sex with. What if we didn't have AIDS and genital warts and herpes and syphilis and gonorrhea? What if I could give you a super condom? I sleep with 30 people. Kids get desperate. What if I use 5, a bodysuit? There must be a way. Are there other reasons to wait? I think so. I'm actually one of those insane, crazy people who actually believes that sex involves more than a few body parts touching. I am so old that I think that sex involves a little bit more than the biology. I am such a dinosaur, that I actually think sex involves your heart and involves your soul. And there isn't a condom in the world that will ever protect your soul. It's not a game. It's not a recreational sport. It's not hooking up. It's not friends with benefits. It's not all those things that MTV has told you it is. It is the most amazing gift of self and intimacy you will ever give someone. And when it becomes a game and a recreational sport, it will forever lose its ability to mean, I really love you. It will forever lose that ability. I met my husband in college. He was 23 when I married him, and he was a virgin. Girls ask me all the time how I knew. Girls' first date, we were both living on campus. He called my dorm, asked me to dinner. First date. He said, Pam, I've not had sex, don't intend to until I'm married. In order to make sure that doesn't happen, here's the boundary. And he laid it on the line. He said, you can't deal with that, date someone else. Wasn't enough to say it. For 2 years, he kept it, treated me with respect, and there's not a diamond in the world he could have given me 24 years ago that was more valuable than what he gave me. Himself, with no past fear, disease, nothing more valuable. A lot of you have never heard your worth waiting for. Hear it from me. The person you're going to spend your life with is worth your best. And you don't have to throw yourself away on relationships that are temporary. There might be some students in here who've had sex, and tonight you're saying this wasn't for you. Tune me out already. Maybe sitting there thinking, well, let's hope all those other kids are listening, and I wish I could say I'd waited, but I'm not, so it's not for me. I'm not a virgin. If you're not a virgin, you've tuned me out, tune me back in right here. I do not care what you did before you walked in this room tonight. I care what you do when you leave. And you can walk out of here and say, it doesn't matter, I've already done it and I don't need to listen to you. And you certainly do not need to listen to me. Do whatever you want. And maybe up until today you've escaped some permanent physical damage. I don't know that, and neither do you. Get tested, please. If you will do nothing else, girls, you have to do this. You need to get tested this week, again in 6 months, again in a year, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Who's to say the next time you decide to put this gun to your head, it doesn't go off? Who's to say the strain of HPV you're carrying tonight won't kill you, but the one you get at prom will? When are you going to begin to build integrity, discipline, trust? You could start tonight. Don't ever let anyone tell you that because you've had sex in the past means you have to keep doing it. You don't. You choose. I had a little girl in Anchorage, Alaska. She ran up to me, got right in my face. She said, Pam, I'm a recycled virgin. I said, cool. She said, when I was 15, I had sex. It left me with a lot of pain, and I knew I didn't want to keep getting used and dumped. I knew I didn't want scarred fallopian tubes and cancer. Pam, I wanted sex to mean something. And I made a commitment to God, to myself, and my future husband that I would not have sex again until the day I'm married. I said, sweetheart, that is awesome. Someday when you get married, you're going to have to tell that boy what you did when you were 15. You will have to rehearse your past. He has to know. But sweetheart, you're going to be able to look at that boy and you're going to be able to say, for the last 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever it is, I have waited for you. I have kept myself pure. I have walked in integrity for 7 years. And we're going to know what kind of damage was done. We've had years to make sure she's okay. You can walk out of here and keep putting your life at risk. Or today you can say no more. Choice is yours. Someone's going, yeah, but Pam, you don't get it. You have no idea. If I went to my boyfriend or my girlfriend and told them I loved them, Pam, we love each other, but I don't want the sex, they'll dump me. Pam, if I won't have sex with them, it's over. Really? What's your relationship based on? It's based on sex. Want to test a relationship that's sexual? Want to find out if they love you? Do you even care to know? Got a challenge for you tonight. Stop. See what's left. If they love you, they'll still be around. If they dump you, because you won't have sex with them, you just learned. As painful as it is, it's a lot less painful to learn it when you're 17, sweetheart, than 8 years into a marriage where someone's cheated on you, dumped you, and left you with 2 kids. Learn it now. Many of you in here have not had sex. You're virgins. I have something I want to say to you tonight. And the first thing you need to hear tonight is you are not alone. Please hear that. You are not alone. Do not believe the lie the media has told an entire generation of kids. They're all doing it. They're animals. They're out of control. Pam, they're going to turn 14 and start walking school halls going, "Arr." I mean, it's just they're animals. They're dogs in heat. They can't help it. You're better than that. You can say yes and you can say no. It's a choice. You choose. And everybody's not doing it. Thousands of teens all over this nation are not having sex. In fact, the CDC released stats 3 years ago that have made every second I've spent on the road away from my family worth it. We now have more virgins in high school than we have had in 15 years. This pendulum is swinging back. You are not the only one. So if you're here tonight and you're a virgin, please hear this in case you never hear it again. Tonight we clap for you. Tomorrow you're going to be laughed at. Hear it today. Good for you. Good for you. You have something so special, so valuable. It's worth whatever it takes to get to your marriage and they'll pass for you. It's not going to be easy. You're going to get laughed at. Kids at school are going to go, you're not having sex? Everybody, you some freak? You religious freak? You like Star Wars? What's the problem? Don't listen to that. I had a senior boy chase me down the hall of his high school in New York, 6'8". The boy was huge. Teacher saw him. They said, Pam, that tall boy you were just talking to in the hall, 4.0 student, full ride scholarship to play basketball at Duke University. Chased me down the hall of his New York high school going like this. You do not miss a 6'8" senior yelling virgin at you. He said this, I'll never forget him. He said, Pam, it's easy for girls. Easy for girls to tell people they're virgins, but you don't know what it's like for a boy. You don't hear the locker room talk, the boys on the basketball team talking about who's easy. What do I say to my buddies when they're mocking me because I'm a senior and a virgin? I said, young man, the next time your friends tease you because you're saving yourself for your wife, I want you to look right at your friends and I want you to say this. Any day, tonight, I could choose to be like you, but you will never again be like me. Once it's gone, it's gone. Takes that long to throw it away. I told you tonight that I couldn't choose. Your parents can't choose. Students, the choice is yours. Make a good choice. Make a good choice. You deserve the best. Expect the best. Expect respect. Your pastor is going to come up and dismiss you. God bless you. Thank you for coming tonight.